Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are now going into our second session, which is improving business sustainability through circular economy. Our next moderator is a graduate from ITB School of Business and Management, and she also studied business management at Lund University, Sweden. She is an associate venture builder at Enviu, a startup that strives to realize a sustainable economy that serves the people and the planet, with circular economy being one of its primary focus. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome for Ms. Aninda Annisa.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the MC for introducing me. I hope that everyone, wherever you are, you stay safe, healthy, and well.
Hello, Ms. Aninda.
Hi, Mr. Adit.
How are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
First of all, I would like to thank you on behalf of all the committee and all the participants because you are willing to be our moderator for the second session. But
pleasure.
before we begin that session, I would like to ask you one short question. Why do you think that circular economy is important for improving business sustainability?
Well, circular economy is at its core keeping everything in the loop. So for a business, you will cut in the producing virgin production, and also you will cut carbon footprints, which will be very good for the environment. So since you do good for the environment, you keep everything in the loop, eventually your cost of the production will be reduced in the end of the day. So circular economy is about prolonging everything that we have to reach its maximum capacity.
Amazing answer. So without further ado, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Adit, for the kind introduction. Once again, welcome everyone. The pleasure is actually mine to be present in this session today. Today we will be talking about circular economy, and we will have three amazing speakers that will join us later today. So a short introduction on circular economy. It is actually about keeping everything in the loop, as I mentioned before. So it is actually a really sexy topic in the present day, because we try to change our behavior where we say we make, use, and then waste, where we call it as a linear economy. We'd like to change the behavior into keeping everything as long as possible to exist. So the circular economy itself has three main principles at its core. The first is eliminating waste and pollution. The second is circulating products and material. And the third is regenerating the nature. All of the three principles should be done by design. And without further ado, let's explore more on how circular economy can actually make businesses more sustainable with three amazing speakers that will be joining us. I would like to introduce you to our first speaker, Mr. Fazrin Rahman from Enviu. He is a kiosk venture builder from Enviu BV, a communication consultant, and also a strategist builder. He is building a new venture centering on the reduction of single-use plastic packaging related to home and personal care products. He also has experiences as project communication officer in UNDP, a consultant in USC Price School of Public Policy, and a co-founder and project lead of Lab Tanya. He graduated from Universitas Indonesia, majoring in architecture, and continued his master's study in University of Southern California, focusing in sustainability and economic development. Without further ado, please welcome Mr. Fazrin Rahman.
Hi, Ms. Anit. Good morning, good afternoon to everyone, and thank you for the opportunity that the organizer gave us, Enviu, to present and to share some of our insights and experience on building a circular business, especially here in Indonesia, and how that can be leveraged to be something that we can utilize for the development of our economy, and also that how that can shape the futures of Indonesia and also the future of our global economy. So I will start my presentations by explaining the basic of what we are doing in Enviu and how it is related to the development of a circular economy, especially the one that are under our domains, and how what are the lessons learned and how that can be added to the other business as usual ventures that we are also having now in Indonesia is quite a lot. So without further ado, the introduction will be my name is Fazrin. I am a venture builder for Enviu Indonesia. We are a startup studio based in Netherlands where we create and support ventures that are working on creating changes on the world's most pressing issues through sustainable, impactful businesses. Um, as I said during this session, I will be presenting some of the knowledge and also to share some of our learnings. We believe that circular economy is the futures that we should strive for and how it will benefit all, not only the people, but also the planets. However, before we deep dive into the details of the circular economy and how it is beneficial for us, let's talk about how the current system works and why we cannot continue with this more linear system. Next. Hello. Yeah. So as we know that right now we are having this problem of plastic waste that are pegging the world with the plastic that are leaking to the oceans. There are more than 1.3 billion tons of trash that are leaking to the oceans. And these trash, not all of them can be properly processed or recycled. This leads to environmental tragedies and geopolitical tensions, such as the one that are faced by Western countries that are searching for new places to test their trash. Because we waste so much, we must extract unsustainable quantities of natural resources to keep pace with the growth of the consumptions. So the question is, how did we get here? The answer is, for short, is that because our global economy is designed for linearity, we take, we make, and we waste. And when we talk about take, make, waste model, what we are talking about is an approach to the resources that is based on this linear economy, where raw materials are collected, transformed into products that are used only briefly, and then thrown away. In this system, value is created by producing and selling as many products as possible. The problem is it operates on the assumptions that there will be an infinite supply of raw materials, energy, and labor. However, as we see today, we are seeing just how wrong that assumption was. Next. As I mentioned, there are a truckload of plastic entering our ocean in every minute, and that should create a concern for all of us. And this is not just plastic; it also includes other kind of waste that are coming from this linear model. Next. So the pandemic has made it pretty clear to us that if we are looking for a healthy future for both people and planet, we won't find it in a business as usual model. Plastic packaging producer um, will quadruple by 2050, and the plastic peak will only to be hit by the year of 2100. This prediction clearly called for reduction of plastic at the beginning of the value chain by skipping single-use plastics in the first place. Because today, only 2% of plastic packaging is recycled in the closed loop. Even in the best case scenario, where 53% of plastic are recycled, the production will still double, and it will create a lot of problem for us. This scenario illustrates how badly needed a model where our finite resources are capped within the loop and does not create the issues. In a linear economy, waste is the end point of full stop. And just as I mentioned, it is not just for plastic, but for all kind of waste. Next. Um, so other than plastic waste, there's also textile waste, food waste, electronic waste, construction waste, just to name a few. Uh, as illustrations, textile alone, there are every second, the equivalent of one garbage truck of apparel waste is burned or landfilled. And 2/3 of all clothing produced ends up in the landfill within a year of being made. For food, I think for every mango that you eat, one is wasted. Our experience in Kenya, we have 40 to 50% of food produced is lost due to supply chain inefficiencies, and more than half of the crop, 64% to be exact, never made it into the market. This is create a lot of problems, and I think with an opportunity where we should be able to use those resources more efficiently, and so that we can also capture the value that lost with this linear model. So next, this is the circular economy, the alternative to the linear economy. This is the future that we in Enviu are striving for. We make sure that every time we make and use, it will be returned to the first cycle of the business. And this is a framework that we can use to design, make, and use things within our planet finite boundaries. Unlike the linear economy, restorative, is regenerative by design, and prevents waste by recovering and reusing as many products and materials as possible. This is on three key principles, basically. We design out waste and pollutions, we keep products and material in use, and we regenerate the natural systems. Next. So first, I will introduce Enviu. Enviu itself, just as I mentioned, we focus on addressing this issue heads on, and we take off from a system error with building markets and enterprises for good as our end goal. We design and build for scalability, realizing world-changing social enterprises. Our ventures are not only impactful, but also scalable and viable for it to continually grow and address the market demands. Next. In Enviu, we currently focus on 4 domains. The first domain is plastic reductions. This is on our activity in locations such as Indonesia, Malaysia, and Netherlands. And then we also have circular apparel, where we produce and make use of textile and slow fashions, where it can meet the demand, but also still circular. In Netherlands, we also have sustainable shipping, and in Africa, India, and Chile, we also have a food system focus where we try to implement the circular model in business that are focusing in these sectors. We currently operate in 6 countries, and we are all share the values and lesson learned that we had across sectors and geographics between our ventures. And also, we understand that building successful ventures require a contextual approach. which translates into the majority of our venture builder is a local champions that brings their local genius into the table to solve the business challenge. Next. In Indonesia, we focus on tackling the plastic waste, just as I mentioned. We have a program named Zero Waste Living Lab program, where we create several ventures that focus on solving the problem of plastic waste from the source. And it is cross sectors ventures that focus on different kind of verticals like transportations, agricultures, waste management, consumer goods, and manufacturers. Next. So this is the example of our ventures. We have Kalum in India and Purvai, where we focus on the circular fashions. We have kiosks, which also provide refill system for daily and personal care product, so people will not consume plastic packaging. So we have Soko Fresh, who provide cold chain for the rural community, so that their food produce will not be lost on the supply chain. As a case study, next, we have a kiosk. This is a ventures that I'm currently building. Kiosk itself is a refill system in Indonesia to tackle plastic pollution from plastic packaging from its source. So we provide a refilling system. It is IoT based and certified by a quality assurance team of the brands that we are partnering with. We provide refill services to consumers that want to reduce their plastic waste and move from the linear model to the circular one. We work with top brands and we try to make their product refillable. We source their product in a bulk packaging that is also will be clean, revealed, and will be kept within the loop. Not only saving plastic with this model, our consumers can also get the benefit of tracking their purchases, do some saving because of our competitive pricing that comes from our bulk purchasings. And also in the process, we have been able to talk with big retail chains to make sure that our machines, the design of the machine itself can be fitted into how the retail system work in Indonesia and can be fit in the aisle. Right now, we have more than 5 locations where we provide these machines to our customers. And also we work with a top 3 retail chain in Indonesia to try out our machines in their space. Next. So in Enviu, what I just said and explained is an illustration on how we believe that we can do and create a business that serves people and the planet. And this is an overview on how we conduct it. So the first, we identify the system failure that we can address, and then we come up with business model based on our design thinking model, where we also partner with companies and partners that are willing to be on board with us. And by having this model, we can create a market changes, at least inspire at the beginning on these traditional business as usual companies to participate and trying out the new models. And from that, we learn what can be improved, we iterate, and we try to make it as a new normal and making it more scalable, optimal, and also reliable in the long run. Next. So going back into the circular economy itself, to sum up, not only that we learn from our own practice, but also supported by data that are coming from the other sources. the circular economy itself is profitable and desirable. 67% of consumers say they are now more aware of their action and impact to the environment. And 64% of millennials will pay more for eco-friendly products. Um, and this creates a new value that can be provided by business to end consumers that are willing to change their behavior from the linear one to the circular one. This increase of awareness manifests in purchase decision. This is what we data that we have from Visa. And by helping the customers make a better decision, such as having a consumptions model that are not harming the environment, can lead to loyalty. Next. And how we build a circular economy through circular business. So in a nutshell, we try to eliminate waste and pollution as soon as possible from the drawing board. We need to consider waste and pollution as design flows rather than an inevitable byproducts of the things that we make and we consume. Circulate products and materials, we know that it is finite. So we design products to be reused, repaired, and remanufactured. Although making things last forever isn't the only solutions, we have several kind of model. Like we have a return on the go model, we have a reuse model, refill model. There are a lot of avenue that business can explore. And then we also really focus on regenerating the natures. There is no concept of waste in nature, so we try as much as possible to make sure that the material that we use and design that we deploy will not create waste during the process. Next. This is some of the learnings that we have from building a circular business, not only in Indonesia, but also from our ventures in other countries, is that the topmost priorities that needs to be solved is how the business can solve customers' expectation for convenience and affordability. Because for people to be able to change or willing to change from a linear model to the circular one, at least it has to provide values that they are getting from models that are not circular. And then second is it is uh, it is inevitable that on the end of the life of the materials, there will be a need for waste infrastructures and technology innovations of treating these materials because as much as we try to reuse or refill plastic packagings or clothes, it will sometime or somehow in the future ends up on its life cycle, and we have to be able to recover it in some way or another, and that is also where innovation is needed. And then we also try to work directly with the government, investors, and also businesses to to make sure that this business can be scalable, can be reliable, and also get support on how it is going to be run in Indonesia or in any place. Next. The Indonesian National Plastic Action Partnership is actually one of the illustration of how this partnership trying to overcome those barriers has come into play. It was created back in 2020 last years, and it tried to combat 16 million tons of plastic waste from entering the oceans by 2040. There is a more than 150 member organization in Indonesia alone are collaborating through this platform. There are policymakers, businesses, diplomatic missions, NGO, IGOs, And Enviu, we are Enviu, is part of the Indonesian NCAP task force, trying to reduce the plastic waste through business innovations that are scalable and also applicable here in Indonesia. I think lastly, I wanted to close these presentations by quoting from my favorite inventor, futurist, designer, and architect. Um, he said that for us to change something is to build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete with better product, better design, better management. Waste, I believe, is just a bad design. It is not always be a byproduct of our consumptions. And by rethinking that way, we can always start afresh from the drawing board on how we can design a business that will not be harmful for the environment. Thank you for the opportunity to the organizer for this event. I will stop my presentation now and move on and give it back to the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fazrin, for a very clear explanation on circular economy. We will back with you at the Q&A session. Now, let's move on to the second speaker, Mr. Bambang Brodjonegoro. Mr. Bambang Permadi Sumantri Brodjonegoro, which currently serves as the President Commissioner of a unicorn tech company in Indonesia, PT Bukalapak.com, was previously a Minister of Research Technology for 2 years. He was also entrusted as the Minister of National Development Planning in 2016 to 2019 and the Minister of Finance in 2014 to 2016. Not only that, this Universitas Indonesia Faculty of Economic and Business former dean has also served as the General Director of the Islamic Research and Training Institute Islamic Development Bank from 2009 to 2010. Mr. Bambang earned his degree in Bachelor of Economics from Universitas Indonesia, then continued his master's study majoring in Master of Urban Planning in University of Illinois, and finally graduated with his doctoral degree from University of Illinois, concentrating in urban and regional planning. Without further ado, let's welcome Mr. Bambang Brodjonegoro.
Thank you very much for the nice introduction. And I would like to apologize first that I might not be able to attend the Q&A session because I have a meeting to attend right after this presentation. By the way, thank you very much for the invitation for this World Angel Investor Forum. And as already presented by the first speaker, Mr. Rahman, that we are going to discuss about circular economy. And if there is a slide of my presentation, hopefully can be shared with the audience. But talking about circular economy at these days, I think is very timely because after the pandemic, of course, we are aspiring for quick recovery in our economy. But of course, we cannot do just simple and basic recovery. Or we cannot aim only for having the economy similarly like what we had before the pandemic. We have to really aim for something that is something that it has higher quality, something with higher quality. And the quality of development that I'm talking about is how to make the recovery sustainable and inclusive. So this is not just a regular recovery. This has to be sustainable and inclusive recovery. And how can we do the sustainable and inclusive recovery? Of course, the government has, released, I think, quite significant amount of the budget, to deal with the crisis. But of course, fiscal solution is not the ultimate solution. The ultimate solution should be combination of what fiscal has been doing and how the budget has been utilized. And of course, in this case, for the period after the pandemic, we need to aim for sustainable investment. We need investment coming continuously to Indonesia. And then we need innovative financing because we need to have higher economic growth in order to catch up with negative growth period in 2020. And of course, we need to provide sustainable tourism. Again, I think the most impacted sector of the pandemic certainly is the tourism. Tourism and including the transportation, including the accommodation, etc., etc. So getting back tourism to the states that can contribute to economic growth and the people welfare, I think will be very critical. Aside from that, on the previous session, we have listened about small and medium enterprise development that, of course, become part of our inclusive development. And again, in Indonesia, 67% of population still categorized as near poor and aspiring middle class. So they are the class that needs to be supported, and most of them, or part of them, are in the small and medium enterprise. And then, of course, we need to accelerate digital transformation that has been accelerated actually during the pandemic. But of course, we know that we are in the era of the digital transformation. We need to be really adaptive to Industrial Revolution 4.0. So digital transformation needs to be continued in order to maintain. And last but not least is the circular economy. Of course, today we are going to talk only about the circular economy. But it means this is very timely because circular economy could be part of solution to the sustainable and inclusive recovery. And the moderator, as well as the first presenter, already had a very good explanation about circular economy. Let me repeat a little bit from the economic theory point of view. When I was student at the Faculty of Economics, University of Indonesia, one of the very important subjects is a production function. How can combination of inputs, especially capital and labor, can be produced into an output, economic output. And of course, when we are talking about production function, we are focusing on how to get the maximizing output with limited number of inputs. So smallest input with the highest output. But we never talk about the waste. Well, if we use the econometric approach, there will be so-called residual, sometimes called error, but basically it's residual. But even residual is just residual, I mean, of course, we are trying to minimize the residual in our econometric approach, but it doesn't mean that we pay attention to the waste of the production function. So with the linear economy that we have learned so far, there will be non-recyclable waste because raw material will be used in the production, it will be used by customers, and it will produce non-recyclable waste. And then we remember the 3R, reduce, reuse, recycle. It is good because reduce trying to, of course, correct, our behavior when we, throw the garbage. Of course, the garbage will be every day, but how to reduce the garbage, of course, is another challenge. But of course, we as a good citizens need to try our best to reduce the garbage. But then when it comes to reuse, recycle, of course, this is a good idea, especially when, let's say, you use the plastic and then plastic bottles, and then after that, you try to reuse or recycle those plastic bottles, either the bottles itself or in terms of plastics. So of course, recycle process is very important. But remember that not all waste will be in terms of recyclable material. There will be non-recyclable material, non-recyclable waste that will end up in the landfill. So the question, how big would be our landfill? It will depend on how big the waste that cannot be recycled or reused. And unfortunately, if we are talking about Indonesia today, even though we have done, let's say we have done in the very best effort to reduce, reuse, and recycle, there is still significant amount in our landfill. And you can witness all around Indonesia, in the big cities. And in fact, I've been in Bantar Gebang itself, in Bekasi, city of Bekasi, that serves as landfill not only for Bekasi, Bekasi municipality, Bekasi district, but also for Jakarta. And what you can see over there is basically a mountain of waste, mountain of garbage that with the height almost reaching the maximum, which is I think around 40 meters. So this is the bigger issue that needs to be solved. And of course, you can say that, okay, this is a waste issue. Let's talk about waste management. Yes, it is right. But now you can do the waste management not only by focusing on the waste itself, but by applying circular economy. Because circular economy, like the moderator and the previous speaker mentioned, we are talking about the loop. We are talking about how to create zero waste or no waste. So basically, when you produce raw materials, you use the product, then after that, you try to recycle back. Not only the type that can be recycled in the factory, in the specific process production, but also every type of waste. So at the end, you will get zero waste. And then, of course, when you are talking circular economy in general, the benefits are basically more. You got, of course, economic benefits because the waste can be reproduced into something that has commercial value. You got environmental benefits because basically you create zero waste. You're trying to reduce the landfill or you're trying to reduce the mountain that has been there for a long time. And then social benefits, because then you can create jobs, you can create the local economy around the landfill or around the waste management itself. And of course, the resource benefits, because you can get new or additional resources that generated from waste management. So there is no doubt that circular economy has to be part of our solution whenever we are talking about economic recovery, sustainable and inclusive recovery. And then after talking about the circular economy, it means from this explanation, waste will be the central of the attention. So how can we, next page please, yeah. How can we take advantage of the waste and the circular economy? First of all, if we look from the macro perspective, circular economy will bring additional GDP equal to 2.5% of GDP by 2030. Of course, this has to be accompanied by series of events, series of policies to promote comprehensive waste management. By doing that, then we can create economic benefit up to 2.5% of GDP. And of course, this is big number because we are talking about 600 trillion rupiah value of circular economy, basically based on waste. And then not only economic benefit, as I mentioned, the social benefit. It can create more than 4 million jobs, additional 4 million jobs by 2030. And of course, this could be done by combination of the job creation. There could be some job reduction, but at the end, it's still a net job creation around 4.4 million number of jobs. And of course, 4 million jobs is a big number. It will make any leader, political leader, easier whenever they have to do, campaign for themselves, because by creating the jobs, then people get better welfare, get better wage. So at the end, of course, people will be happy with the condition, and they might re-elect or re-elect the incumbent, because then you can create the jobs just by waste or circular economy. Okay, and then talking about the waste itself on the next page, then we can start with something that, of course, you might have concern about plastic waste and any other type of waste that sometimes create destruction in the ocean, create destruction in the public space. But let's start from the things that we always face every day, maybe 2 or 3 times a day: food waste. Why food waste? Because in 2019, food loss and waste in Indonesia was around 0.5 kilogram per capita per day. I think it's quite big, because this is about the loss, not the amount of food that you eat, but the food loss and waste. And out of the 0.5 kilograms, 44% was edible food waste. And the loss of nutrition, if you convert to the nutrition, could have fed 61 to 125 million people. Of course, from any, let's say, if you are learning about the waste, then you feel guilty. You should feel guilty, because whenever you have food waste, then basically there are potential loss of nutrition in other people who are not as lucky as we are. And then if it's converted to economic losses, it could potentially create 4 to 0.5% of Indonesia's GDP loss. So around between 213 to 551 trillion rupiah per year. And then not only monetary loss, the bigger thing is about the environmental costs, because then food loss and waste will contribute to global warming by generating more than 1,700 million ton CO2, equivalent to 7.29% of total greenhouse gas emission in Indonesia over the past 20 years. So don't underestimate the food waste that usually happens when you finish your lunch, finish your dinner, or finish your breakfast, because then accumulation of the things that left in your plates will finally end up in the economic loss, will finally end up in the nutrition loss for others in Indonesia, for example, and don't forget, it will finally end up in the emission. And the emission, of course, generating the issue, because then it will make our target harder in order to achieve the Paris Agreement. Yeah, next. So the circular economy could be the solution, because they trying to treat the waste as resources. And this is important. When we are talking about angel investor, when we are talking about the startup, then the origin of startup in this area would be how to utilize the waste as potential resources that will be commercially viable. And then, of course, hopefully it will get the attention by the customers. Half of municipal solid waste comes from the food waste, okay? And food waste could be consumed quickly by black soldier flies, yeah? Or in bahasa Indonesia, lalat hitam, yeah? And then from the larva of the BSF, they will excrete liquid substance called frass that is rich of nutrition and will be beneficial for crops growth. So adult one also contains high protein content and suitable to be used as fish meal alternative. So if you see the diagram over here, then you can see the food waste, let's say 50% of the total waste, that will be like the source of the black soldier fly. So black soldier fly will produce the larva, and the larva will eat the food waste. And after eating the food waste, they will produce the liquid substance called fresh. And this fresh and rich of nutrition and combined with very little chemical, then it can produce, number one, organic fertilizer. So organic fertilizer, rich of nutrition, nutrient, and microorganism. And more importantly, this will be an alternative to the chemical-based fertilizer. And you know very well, if you are from agriculture background, if we use too much chemical-based fertilizer, it will endanger the quality of the land itself. While organic fertilizer actually much safer. And then, of course, in terms of price, it is less expensive than the chemical-based fertilizer. And more importantly, you don't need, a new big manufacturing just to produce the chemical fertilizer, like, the one in Palembang, Pupuk Sriwijaya, the one in Gresik, Petrokimia, and others. But you need to go to the, the one that I found here, bioreception, located next to Bantar Gebang. Actually, they're located in Bantar Gebang. I've been there and I can see how they produce, and they already distribute the liquid, or the product will be liquid fertilizer that could be now utilized in anywhere in Indonesia as an alternative to the chemical fertilizer. And the other side product would be for fish meal. And we know fish meal will be important in order, of course, for our fishermen, in order to get the fish much more easily. I mean, you give the fish meal, they come, and then you catch all the fish, and it becomes, of course, part of your income. So this is the beauty of circular economy at the smaller scale. We are not talking about big manufacturing, big factory. We are talking about basically kind of, small and medium enterprise type of activities. Okay, next. Yeah, this is more on the maybe on the larger scale, because then we still have the ambition to make sure all the waste will be gone from the landfill, zero waste. Of course, that might be too ideal, but we have to go toward the area. And of course, we can do it by waste to energy, creating the energy, creating the electricity from the waste. And we can use the technology called carbon capture, utilization, and storage in order to create carbon negative. So in 2018, municipal solid waste contributed to 43,000 tons of CO2 equivalent, or equal to 34% of emission from waste sector. So this is how the solution of solid waste is very important. So if you look at the diagram over here, from solid waste, you will do the biological drying, and after that, the waste can be used directly to produce electricity, or from biological drying, you can create RDF, refuse derived fuel, and RDF could be used, at least for any power plant, coal power plant, to improve the energy mix, because then you can do co-firing, coal and the RDF, and then still you can produce electricity, but with better energy mix. So electricity can be produced either through RDF or directly by gasification, or by incinerating the waste into electricity. And of course, the waste can also be used to produce CO2, and then the CO2 can be processed further with the carbon capture, utilization, and storage installation. And at the same time, CO2 can also produce hydrogen, and hydrogen is like a potential source of future energy, while carbon CCUS, carbon capture, will of course create the carbon negative. So from this diagram, we can conclude that if you are taking care your waste seriously, if you are aiming for very minimum waste left at your landfill, then this is your dream. This is how we can help the government to reduce pollution by taking care the issue of waste. And then on the next, last but not least, yeah, please, next, yeah. So in terms of the circular economy, I would say that economic activities need to be carried out, of course. We need economic growth. We need to improve people welfare. But when we are trying to, carry on with economic activities, we have to take into account the ecological ceiling while prioritizing the fulfillment of basic needs and community welfare. So this is ecological ceiling that I mentioned is how circular economy can play important role in making sure the ecological ceiling will be enough to accommodate fulfillment of basic needs, community welfare, and of course, economic growth. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much, Mr. Bambang, for the clear presentation. As we know that you will have another agenda after this session, we would like to have a photo session first with you. And we would like to also welcome Mr. Fazrin Rahman and also Mr. Roy Sembel for the photo session. And also we would like to ask the chairman of WBAW Indonesia, Mulyandi Nasution, to join the photo session.
Thank you, Pak Bambang. Thank you, Pak Fazrin.
So, committee, please help in 3, 2, 1. Once again, in 3, 2, 1. Thank you so much, everyone.
Okay,
thank you, Mr. Bambang. Mr. Bambang will not be joining us in the Q&A session. As he mentioned before, he will have another agenda after this presentation. So now we'd like to move on to the third speaker on the topic of the importance of the ESG perspective for companies, Mr. Roy Sembel. Professor Roy Sembel is currently the Professor Distinguished Chair for Finance and Investment in IPMI, International Business School. He is also the co-founder of Proud Media Group's MARS Data Science, a data science company, and MIOTA Internet of Things company, and the senior advisor of IYKRI, a data analytic company. He formerly served as the director of the Jakarta Futures Exchange and had many other senior positions in some companies, PT Bank Niaga Tbk, McKinsey & Company, and ABN AMRO Bank in Amsterdam. He is a graduate of J.M. Katz Graduate School of Business, University of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the Wharton School, University of Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, and the Rotterdam School of Management, Erasmus University, Rotterdam, and IPB, Bogor. Moreover, Prof. Roy Sembel is a writer who has published more than 35 books and more than 1,000 articles in business media. He is also a trainer and consultant at more than 100 companies. Without further ado, let's welcome Mr. Roy Sembel with his presentation.
Thank you very much. Check 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? Okay. Let me share my presentation, but host disable participant screen sharing. I cannot share my screen. Can someone make me a co-host so that I can share my file? Still cannot? Okay. Okay. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present this interesting topic. already introduced, my name is Prof. Sembel and my short CV. And then so let's start with why. This is the same as the title of the good book by Simon Sinek. Well, some people have doubt about the ESG, environment, social, and governance. But the other people, they have a very hopeful thing about the ESG. Here, I will try to get the position of the right side, because there are plenty of opportunity that we can do, and then there are some proofs already there, even in Indonesia. Okay, this is the first why. Talking about the ESG companies or companies that adopt ESG principle, we can see that the mutual fund that has a firm selection criteria apply as SRI, that is the environment, social, and governance principle. This mutual fund, the performance actually here, the above one, This is above the IHSG, the market index, and the LQ45. This is from several years ago already. This is the long run performance. So that is very suitable for the sustainable things, because not only about the short run, but long run. Okay. What happened in global economy, the speed already increased very quickly, very significantly. However, the speed is at the wrong direction. It's already explained before by the previous speaker. So take a look at the long-term GDP. Well, at the beginning, the growth will be good because it is still sustainable at that level. However, because of the mindset of take, make, and waste, and then we measure our performance by activity instead of legacy, then we have this current result. This is real disaster, not sustainable. Okay, and then our choice is whether we want to be like this or like this. Of course, for the hopeful people, we will choose this situation, right? Now, there is a quote from the some of the quote, for example, from the BlackRock's investor. They already consider the ESG as a part of their investment criteria. So, and then also from NASDAQ, there is a proof that the robust ESG program can open up access to a large pool of capital. So that is good for the company to get a global access for the capital. And then in the global world, at the macro level, more than 100 countries already agrees on that sustainable development goals at the macro level, which are translated into the company level, that is the E, S, and G. Okay. Now, according to McKinsey & Company, these are the definitions of the ESG, that's the environmental, and then social, and then governance. Okay. For example, environment include the energy your company takes in and then which in discharge. And then social, the relationship your company has, reputation, relation, diversity, and inclusiveness. And governance, we know about the good corporate governance, right? And then based on the research, comparing the group of the strong ESG proposition company compared to the weak one, these are some benefit of the strong ESG proposition company. Top line growth, better. Cost reduction, especially the energy consumption, better. And then get better treatment by regulatory and legal intervention. And then the employee feel they work in a company that has some purpose. They have a spirit and then encouraged to work better, productivity uplift. And then, of course, because of the good corporate governance, investment and asset optimization will be better. Okay. And here, result of the study. And based on this study, we see that all studies seems to be on the right direction for the ESG company. So this is the positive impact. Although yes, we have some possible negative impact, but the positive effect dominated the negative impact. 63 versus 8%. Okay, and also in Indonesia, we have started, the government has started to acknowledge this, right? With the Undang-Undang Nomor 5 tahun 2007, already started several years ago, ya. In general, and also about the Undang-Undang for the pasar modal, ya. Okay, and these are other example about the performance of the ASE company. Yeah. This is the index by Srikati, then this is the new ESG index by IDX. Yeah. The blue one outperform the rest of this index. Yeah. ESG and LQ45. Yeah. That's the proof that the sustainable company, ESG company perform better. Yeah. Okay, and then the challenge is the ESG disclosure score actually is still low. Yeah. Although we have started somewhere, however, we started very slowly. Yeah. So take a look at this. There's still only, well, there are some improvement, yes. Yes, from 2018 to 2019, we have some improvement. However, the score is still very low. Check 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? Okay, I'm back. Yeah. All right. So what next? We know that there are plenty of opportunities already explained by several speakers before. Yeah. The application in Indonesia, the concept is available, and concrete example exists, as explained also by the previous speakers. Yeah. However, we need entrepreneurs, intrapreneurs, innopreneurs, sociopreneurs, or technopreneurs, whatever you want to name it, yeah, to realize these sustainable businesses, yeah, that support ESG. Yeah. So we need partnership. Yeah. Government cannot do it alone. Companies cannot do it alone. Yeah. We need partnership. That's the ecosystem, at least the pentahelix or quintuple helix, whatever you want to know to name it. Yeah. University, yeah, the company, governments, civil society, and media. Yeah. So those are the actors that at least they have to work together, form the ecosystem of business to realize the opportunity of the ESG company. Yeah. Okay. Now, from the point of view of company, we know that the goal of company should not be only profit, because it may not be sustainable, yeah, at the micro level as well as the macro level, yeah. So it should be the optimal and sustainable value creation, yeah. And then in order to realize that, all the business people needs to have the business IQ, yeah. That is the ESG mindset should be there, people and self-empowerment, customer focus, of course, and resource management, that's the governance, then the spirit of the entrepreneurship and intrapreneurship, and of course, currently, we cannot live without the utilization of technology. Yeah. Now, we can realize the remarkable Indonesia. We have plenty of natural and cultural heritage. Yeah. Yes, the tourism sector during the COVID era, yes, we know that it's already explained by Pak Bambang. Yeah. It was down significantly, but with the correct treatment, we can improve the business and take advantage of these resources to make it happen. Yeah. So I will close my presentation using apa tuh bahasa Inggrisnya, pantun, poetry or something. Okay, this is the pantun ya. Sama dengan ESG Talk Chair, mari kita borong, recover together, recover strong. Okay, thank you very much. Back to you, the moderator.
Thank you so much, Mr. Roy, for the very clear and thorough explanation on how the ESG could actually contribute in the pursuit of circular economy. Now, we'd like to go to the Q&A session. So we'd like to welcome also Mr. Fazrin to come in the frame. Okay, we have 3 questions, and I will be reading the questions directly to you, and perhaps one could be answered by Mr. Fazrin, and also the other could be answered by Mr. Roy. So for the first question, this is from Melia from Bintang Kecil. She said that thank you for the very insightful session, which give more appetites to investor. Big number of customer with cheap price means small revenue, or big revenue but with small amount of customers. Probably we could get this question being answered by Mr. Fazrin, noting that you also involve a lot in the business sector. Mr. Fazrin, please have your session.
Hi. Yeah, thank you, Mbak Anin. I think the answer to this will be best to be answered by an investors rather than me as a business and venture builders. But I think both it's kind of related by having a big number of customers with cheap price. It can drive small revenues, but I think if we combine it with the big numbers of customers, it can also create a big revenue. And I think what we are going after here is we create a lot of impact and reductions on waste that we are having during the process and of the value chain of the business. So I think it doesn't matter if the business has only small customers or big customers, as long as it stays true to the circularity of the business. Just like Professor said that it is not only after the revenue, the profit, but also on the impact that the business make toward the environment and to the livelihood of the people. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Fazrin, for the answer. I hope it answered the questions to Melia. Yeah. Now we'll move on to the second question. This will be asked to Mr. Roy. The question is in Bahasa. Bagaimana potensi bisnis sampah di negara kita? So it's like asking how is the potential of the waste management in our country. Mr. Roy, please answer the question.
Okay, thank you very much. As we know that the sampah in Indonesia is very large problem, yeah, because we have almost 300 million population. Of course, the sampah will be very huge. Yeah. But behind that, we need technology and business model that will make sampah becomes opportunity, right? Yeah. So the prospect will be very huge as long as you have the right mindset and also the right technology and the right business model to handle and to treat that problem. Yeah. Well, so that's part of the opportunity in the future to reduce the waste. However, that cannot be the only mindset because not only reducing waste, the circular economy should also get into the equation there. Yeah. Try to make products that will produce no waste, yeah, as low as possible the waste. Yeah. Some of the speakers before already explained some business that try to do that. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Roy. We'll now move on to the next question. This is from Muhammad Romiziatul Fadlan. I'd like to give this back to Mr. Fazrin to be answered. The question is, what are the challenges for startups in the circular economy era? What kind of business model of a startup that is feasible with this era? Please answer the questions, Mr. Fazrin.
Yeah, thank you, Banin. I think the biggest challenge, just as I highlighted from my presentations, lies on how there is need for innovations and design and rethinking of the existing business to the more circular one that can meet the customer expectations. That is the biggest challenge. Just so you know that it is very convenient for us to use plastics, right? Like you can just grab it and take it, use it, and dump it as a waste. How can a circular business be as easy as it? and how can the business be competitive with the price that these plastic waste is offering. That is the biggest challenge because creating a loop within a business is not as simple as a linear model. Yeah, so if for the business model itself, I think we have seen a lot of variety on the business model that can work with a circular model. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
I
Fazrin.
can add the answer
Yes,
to that. Yeah.
please.
The biggest challenge is to change the mindset of people, to change the habit of people, and find the entrepreneur that can really realize the opportunity through many opportunities that are already there. However, you have to think it from the different angle, yeah, not just the standard angle of take, make, and waste. Yeah. Like for example, the sampah before, yeah, opportunity is very huge, and then in the meantime, there are not many entrepreneurs, not enough entrepreneurs deal with that situation. Yeah, opportunities are huge. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much to our speakers for a very well answer. That would be the end of the Q&A session. And before I end the session of this second session in this webinar today, I would like to give you a short summary on the topic. So from Mr. Fazrin, we learned that waste is not by default a part of business. It is the flow in the design which we actually can change. The change to circular economy, according to Mr. Bambang, can be one of our ways to achieve a sustainable and inclusive recovery. So in circular economy, waste will not end up as waste, but it will be involved back in the economic cycle and then translated into something valuable. In the pursuit of circular economy, we learned that from Mr. Roy that taking into account the environment, social, and governance aspect in the business process will generate positive impact in the value creation. Because in the end of the day, the issue of waste that is created by our current flow in the system is not only the responsibility of the government, neither it is only the responsibility of the business nor the customer, because in the end of the day, it is the responsibility of everyone. Thank you so much for joining the second session. Now, I would like to give back the session to the MC.